I was really surprised, but like amount of negativity
Yeah,
on
me
LinkedIn
too. Hmm.
was way higher than like Instagram or TikTok or
Hmm.
even like Telegram, where it's like there is no censorship in Telegram. LinkedIn went wild, like wild. And I was like, oh my God. But actually, if you really look into what people are posting from any, like, no matter what they're coming from, most of the aggression and negativity and most of the message which they have was due to lack of information. Like, I wouldn't call it ignorance, because I don't want to offend these people. But if a person who thinks that like banning Russian business will have any influence, like this person has no idea about what they're talking about. They don't know how Russia works. They don't know how this system was designed, right? And again, I don't want to offend anyone, but when people tell me like, why people are not going to protest in Russia and everything, I say because everyone will go to jail, like
You'll end
everyone.
up in jail. Welcome to Business Savage, the meeting place for Entrepreneur Anonymous, where stories that don't get published on LinkedIn come to the surface. I'm Olya, your guide through the good, the bad, and the ugly of entrepreneurship. No glory, just raw, unfiltered reality. Business Savage is your community where every episode serves as a confession booth for entrepreneurs to share their most guarded stories, struggles, and strategies. So, whether you're in the trenches of it, considering to get into it, or simply intrigued about the real stories behind success posters, you're in the right place. Speaking of the trenches, my first guest on this podcast is somebody who has been holding my hand through the trenches of my journey of bringing my idea into the reality, and I'll let him introduce himself.
However, thank you so much for such an energetic introduction. Hi everyone, hello the community. My name is Gleb. I'm entrepreneur, and fun fact, I still don't know how to spell this word, so I always make mistake. um, yeah, I'm really happy to be here, and I'm honored to be the first guest on this amazing podcast. I'm happy to be here in the beginning.
Yes, I'm very excited as well. Do you think you can tell us a little bit what has basically motivated you to get on this journey full of roadblocks?
Sure. So I believe there was some intrinsic motivation and also some influence from the external. Since I was young, I mean, I'm still young, but since I was a student, I was really into self-help books, personal development, and this kind of stuff. I think it also was the time when they started to be like very, very popular, and I was like really, really absorbing this thing. I remember in 2010 when the social network movie was released. I was really, really inspired by all the story, and somehow I felt that I was like a part of that community of people who are building the future, especially in tech. So this was the external motivations. It kind of felt normal for me, right? So my environment where I actually lived and the people who I spent my time with and who I was hanging out with, they didn't really fit this environment, I would say. But somehow I always believed that this is normal and this is a place for me. So this is the external influence. And internally, I believe the my personal drive, which I have, even though, okay, I don't want to sound like it was easy for me, right? So I have internal drive somewhere very deep and like layers and layers and layers of self-doubt, insecurities, and many, many other blockers, which I'm carrying myself as a heavy backpack, right? And this internal drive had to, kind of go through all of them, which took a lot of time, a lot of years, but I'm happy I finally live the life I want to live.
You're like super self-aware. That also makes sense why you're helping me build my product because self-awareness is part of that. Look, I'm trying to like categorize entrepreneurs based on precisely what you just
Mm-hmm.
described. So external, internal motivations, and I'm trying to like assign a persona to each of them. So far I have the Oprahs, the Jeffs, and the Elons.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously the Oprahs is like somebody who came from very challenging circumstances and just wanted to propel themselves and other people within the same community. Then the Jeff is basically the person who was like, I'm just going to make more money. And Elons is like, I'm just going to be the god of the universe. I'm just going to make, the whole world a more innovative place. Do you feel a strong affiliation with any of those or not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily?
It's a really good question, excellent question actually. And I've been asking myself this for a while, and only recently I got an answer. With some spiritual guidance, I came up to the conclusion that I'm more like Jeff, because being an entrepreneur, I believe it's not my ultimate goal, right? So this my ultimate goal is what it can lead to, like the quality of life it can lead to, the kind of resources I will have, the kind of impact I will have, the doors it will open, right? So I believe the Elon style entrepreneur is more about a huge vision and this mission, which most of people are like, they're not even able to think about it, right? So it's unbelievable what are his plans, and the things he talks out loud like 20 years ago seemed impossible, but now he's actually doing this. I'm not sure I'm exactly this person right now, right? So basically, I thought I'm vision driven. I thought I'm goal driven, but yeah, I believe again with some self-awareness exercises, I don't think this is really my case. So right now, I'm more focused on building and scaling a profitable business, which will enable me to do the things which I love, right? Travel, expand, in terms of business, in terms of media, right? To reach more people as a person with resources. And I can totally imagine that it will transform to Elon or to Oprah, afterwards. Because again,
Right.
I personally believe that there is nothing more noble and spiritual than to be rich and have resources and then spread the word and spread the good message to more people, right? And I think it doesn't matter how big your dreams are, until you cover the basis of your life, until you have like financial security and stability, you're kind of, I would say, useless for society, right? Because your dreams remain dreams. So maybe
Right.
first we need to be like Jeff and say, like, okay, I will build the system which supports me, and then which I can fully delegate and fully outsource. And then with the resources, with the knowledge, and with also the network, I can really make a big impact. I think he is doing the big impact, right? He with the space program, and he is also doing he has this newspaper, the Washington Post. So yeah, I think now I'm in this stage right now when I focus on, okay, let's just do it, let's build it, let's scale it, and then we will see how it goes. Let's live the epic life.
That's so funny because I think this is kind of like the thought process that I went through. And I have to say, what you posted on LinkedIn, recently, something about, oh, I wanted to make the world a better place, but then I realized that it's like a lot more practical to follow the money. I was like, yes, that's exactly what I thought. Because I had this whole like vision for myself that I'm going to make some impact or change in the world. And then I would like always come up with this, bigger ideas, but I had no idea how to actually turn them into reality. And when I saw your post on LinkedIn, I was like, that's exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm just trying to understand what is it that people actually need outside of me trying to be some Elon, right? 20
Yeah,
years from now.
to be honest, maybe to first of all, thank you so much for the nice feedback. I'm happy you liked it, because this is the message which I'm trying to reach to people. Like, there is nothing wrong about following your dreams, and there is nothing wrong about working on your passion. But let's be realistic. If you don't have a business experience, if you don't know how to set up the sales funnels, if you don't know how to make cold calls, if you don't know how to invoice your clients and pay your employees, most probably you'll screw up your passion project like in the first months. Imagine your passion project comes to you from the sky, but without business experience, you'll probably mess it up. So I'm 100% for following your passion. And I also want to be in this place. And I think eventually I will arrive there. But if it's not my first business and not the second, it's totally fine. It could be my 10th business. But when I
Right.
already scaled a few companies before, or maybe I failed a few companies before, I'll be more prepared and I'll be more seasoned for this passion project, for this dream, and for this outcome. Also, like Elon Musk, he didn't start by sitting on the chair and thinking like, yes, let's do the space program, right? He was doing a banking transactional thing, which has nothing exciting, right? So, okay, they said, let's reinvent the money, but I'm sure these guys were driven only they were driven by money. They had only commercial interest. And then with exits and experience and network, you can do the rocket science.
Right. I agree. Um, I guess I want us to jump a little bit into, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I would like to start with the bad, actually, and I'll give you my bad. Basically, something that I've had to deal with practically most of my adult life because I was an immigrant most of my adult life. So I left the country where I was born, Russia, almost right after university to move to the US. And the entire time I've been dealing with this like underdog principle. So because A, I was already an immigrant, B, I was an Eastern European,
Hmm.
especially Russian, and C, female immigrant, I always had to deal with this notion where people thought that I had the jobs that I had because of the way that I looked and not because of what I had to say. And even though I knew internally it wasn't true, I still got really conditioned by that. And up until today, so this has grown into a big imposter syndrome for me, where I still like doubt and question my own abilities, even though deep down I know that like I'm capable. But this whole like layer of conditioning is still like a heavy weight on me. And like you said, the baggage, right? So I bring this baggage
Hmm.
everywhere I go, especially in professional environments. So give me your bad and your ugly.
I can relate to the story at least partially because I think we have a kind of a similar path. I also, right after university, I moved out of my country, which is also Russia. I moved to Germany, which is actually like a very immigrant friendly place, right? Especially being a Caucasian male, so I never had any experiences with being judged, especially for my nationality, because I don't know, I think 20% of German population are like Russian or Russian descent or Russian speaking. So I didn't have this kind of experience when people were judging me based on where I'm from. However, I have this experience of starting from the beginning in the place where nobody was expecting you, nobody actually wants you, nobody understands you, and you don't understand anyone else. With a lot of pressure, financial pressure, um, pressure with studies because I was also doing my master's there and working at the same time. And I think I also accumulated a lot of insecurities, a lot of self doubts because of. I think the ugliest and the most difficult thing was the absence of support, right? Because I think if you do it when your family is around, maybe your partner is around, or you have a group of friends, I think it's all manageable. But when you're totally alone for extended time, this is what really like leaves some scars there. And every time when I talk with any kind of, let's say, person who tries to like help me, like a psychotherapist or astrologist or healer or fortune teller, anyone, they all say, okay, let's deep dive to your childhood. There are some traumas there. And I always say like, actually, my childhood was fun. Like everything was okay. My parents, they gave me enough attention, not too much, not too little. I think I get messed up when I was already an adult. So I will say like we shouldn't go back to like 30 years ago. Like let's check like some recent history. I think this is where I accumulated all these insecurities and all these like self-doubt habits. Thinking like I'm not good enough because how else can it be when you're working so hard for so many months and you receive like zero feedback, like zero recognition? Of course, you'll start questioning, like, am I good enough? And I'm kind of, I achieved, I will brag a little bit, I achieved like a significant progress in that, like really letting go all these layers of insecurities, but still a long way to go. Every time when people say like, yeah, I want to move to another country and immigrate and everything, I said like, okay, maybe it won't be as shiny as you expect, but yeah, you definitely have a chance.
I can totally relate to the loneliness thing. And I think for me, what has happened is that eventually I didn't know how to deal with this anymore. So I decided that if this is the thing that people were focusing on, like I guess my appearance or my looks, I started thinking, okay, let me just make the most out of it. So, I started dressing in a certain way, just like really trying to get attention from that perspective.
Hmm.
And then what happened is eventually I started believing this is all that I had myself. I thought, okay, I'm just good looking and nothing else. Like that's all that I bring to the table. And that has actually snowballed into my personal life too. So that one experience of being, I guess discriminated, if we
Hmm.
really want to go into like terms, that really created this big layer of trauma for me that I'm still working through, even though I'm like very aware of it. It
Hmm.
still hinders a lot of my experience, both professionally and personally. Like a lot less now, but yeah, the like you said, the scar
Hmm.
is definitely there.
Yeah, I really feel it goes like repetition, right? So basically, we need to rewrite these models, which we heard for 1,000 times. Like for 1,000 times, again, we need to tell us different things. And if we received it, maybe it wasn't a vocal, right? When they tell you like, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, but you could see it, you could feel it, right? You don't need to listen to this. You can feel it from the way people look at you. You can really feel it from the way how you receive feedback from others, how they treat you. So now we have to rewrite them like again 1,000 times. They're like, no, I'm good enough. No, I'm good enough. No, I'm good enough, right? And showing some evidence to ourselves, like, okay, this is I'm doing really good, and this is the evidence. I can really touch it. I can feel it, right? While all the other things, they don't truly exist, right? So maybe somebody told us something which is still like left some scars in our hearts, and we still feel bad about this. There were situations which made us really, really uncomfortable, but it's all fiction, right? Nothing actually happened. But then we have successes which you can say like, okay, I built this, I scaled this, I achieved this. Why it's not enough for me to like really finally accept that I'm good enough, right? But yeah, it's a long healing process, which actually quite exciting, and I find it really interesting to go through that.
So, would you say like a concrete strategy or a concrete tool in this case is what you just described, like rewiring the internal monologue?
100%. I believe this is like the most efficient one, working from inside and then from outside. So I don't think you can really you can achieve whatever you want to achieve on the outside until you fix yourself inside. And
Mm-hmm.
again, it might sound like weird for some people, but if you tell yourself for 1,000 times that you are good enough, eventually you'll start to believe in this, because this is exactly how you start to think you're not good enough. When your parents or your teachers or your classmates or whoever told you like they were judging you by how you look or maybe your some other abilities, right? So some people from the outside were telling you this many, many, many times. You need to rewrite it. So this is the first thing from the inside. I think everyone should start there. And second one, again, the evidence. You think like, okay, I'm a shy person and I'm bad on camera, let's say. This is something which I'm kind of struggling a bit, right? Like I'm okay to do like podcasts, I think, to do interviews and in general be on the call, but when I need to record myself, I'm just like become really, really strange, like totally different personality. And I'm thinking like, okay, I'm bad being on camera. But then I think like, do I even have evidence for that? When was like, what's the really tangible evidence of me being bad on camera? When was the last time I published a YouTube video and people say it sucks? It never happened, right? So the way to rewrite it is to really do this and say, okay, I did it and nothing bad happened. Maybe nothing good happened either. But then I did it for the second time and you see like, okay, there is some good feedback. And it happens sometimes with me, like most of my attempts of anything, like anything, were like well met. When I just moved to Germany, I started a blog about life in Germany, how to be a student in Germany, and people were giving me like good feedback. If I publish something online, usually I get like really good feedback. And in general, like when I do something, even when I think, okay, maybe I didn't put like my best, I still receive good feedback.
Mm-hmm.
So next time when I about to start something new, I'm thinking like, look, man, like all the time it was fine. All the time people actually liked what you do. Maybe you're not that, bad as you think. Maybe you're totally capable of doing this. So just go ahead, and this helps.
So, to dig a little bit deeper into that, do you think that's an exercise that everyone should be capable of doing on their own? Or do you think there are people who should just seek maybe some external help for that, maybe like a therapist or
Mhm.
a coach?
I think everyone will benefit from external help, right? So I think it's a question of access. If people have
Okay.
access to that, right? So to
Mm-hmm.
be honest, I think this is so complicated and so difficult that it's tough to make it alone. And I would really question if it's possible, because I would say you need to put yourself in the environment which supports that. So it could be either your friends or your new friends, or it could be the online community or some mastermind or mentorship group, or maybe like if you're a really independent person, you can also get some help from books and from other resources. I think you can do everything. So, but I think it's very unlikely that you will do it. It's the same as, think about this as like a physical health, right? So in every single city, village, town, there are a lot of gyms, a lot of sport facilities, but people still don't use them, right? Maybe because it's not a tradition in their family, maybe because their friends are not doing this. And you think like, if the person is sick, or okay, I don't want to like sound that radical, like if the person is not fit, what really stops them from going to any gym which is so accessible, right? And just like started working out. But there are 1,000 reasons for that. I think it's the same with like personal growth and spiritual growth. It's so accessible. Like all the books are there on Amazon, all the videos are there on YouTube. But still, we don't live like in this thriving society where everyone is happy and self-aware, right? Because,
Right.
yeah, I think having all the answers doesn't leave you from the, how to say, it doesn't free you from asking the right questions. And to start asking right questions, you need to have like some influence from that. So I would say for me, it was the change in environment, change some habits, and also change my expectations from myself and from others. This was like the starting point when I stepped on this journey and I started to be committed to this journey. Until then, I was just like feeling something is odd and I'm not sure I'm in the right place. For me, I'm not sure I belong to this lifestyle which I have, but I had no idea how to change it and I didn't know like exactly how to change it. It just felt miserable. But when I changed the environment and changed the habits, this when all the things in the puzzle like they started to come together and still coming together. I'm not done by any means, with this journey.
Yeah, that resonates a lot with me. And what you said about, being lonely when you first immigrate to another country, that definitely like takes a toll on you. I felt that maybe on a slightly different scale. When I was moving to the US, I already had like acquaintances in that area because I went through, the whole work and travel experience there before. So it wasn't necessarily lack of connections, but it was the quality of those
Right.
connections. And what you just said just like made total sense to me because I'm like, I was not in a healthy environment. And that what has made me like hit the lowest low in terms of the lifestyle I was leading, etc. Not like I was doing any heavy drugs or anything like that, but just, accumulate a lot of credit card debt because I was just like doing things that didn't make sense. And so that has really motivated me to like change something about it. And this is what happened for me also last year when I just realized that, well, excuse my French, shit was about to hit the fan in my personal relationship and everywhere else. And do you think most of the people come to some realization like this and try to make changes only based on the like low or traumatic experience, or do you have like any examples from your own experience or maybe the people that you know that just came to it without hitting the low?
I know what you mean, and I think it doesn't have to be like hitting the bottom, but from my empirical observations, this is exactly when the change is happening. We always,
Right.
the change always comes when it's a little bit too late, or let's say very late. Like from my experience, like if I was changing jobs, usually it's because I was already like really sick of my current one. If I was about to break up, it was because I was already thinking like I cannot be with this person anymore. And the same about like
Right.
changing places and everything. I think this is the human nature, and of course we can be inspired by someone and saying like, okay, I did this, and we can say, okay, this is a great example. I want to be like this person. But me personally, and I also think applies to most of people, we don't really take an action. We can really feel like, okay, this is a great example, and we can be inspired for a few minutes. But I think in order to take an action, we really need to achieve this point when you say like, this cannot go like this anymore. Like I cannot do this anymore. And sometimes when people tell me like, I really think I want to have a change in my life. Maybe I want to change a job. I want to change in my relationship. And I said, probably you have not reached this point yet. Because when you reach this point, like you hit the rock bottom, you said, okay, it cannot be like this anymore. And I started to I just accepted this, right? I would love to be the person who can recognize the situations like months ahead, but I'm not this person. Like all the changes I've done were because I was thinking like, fuck, I really can't stand this anymore. It needs to be changed today. It was with quitting things, acquiring things, changing things. I said, if I keep doing it tomorrow, I will just, kill myself. I really cannot stand this anymore. So maybe just my way, but I think it's the way for most of us.
Yeah, I think this is the way for most of us because I read a study about this that this is more like biological rather than
Hmm.
anything else. Like we have to have a strong stimuli in order to actually make changes because it's linked to our survival, right? So it's basically, and I can even tell you from my experience, like whenever I tried making changes in my life, whether it's like personal growth or anything professional, like I already tried running a startup a few years back. Well, needless to say, it didn't work out. I didn't have enough motivation. I didn't have enough motivation. I had like I was not living a bad life, you know? So
Hmm.
it was more like a toy for me rather than anything else. But and again, like even today, it's not like I'm living a horrible life. But the motivation was stronger. And you know why? Because I have kids. I have
Hmm.
two
For
kids,
sure.
and I'm like, I just want to have more time for them. I want to have more money for them. Like I want to have all this flexibility for them. So this what has become my, if you will, like a mix of internal and external motivation. And whether it's fortunate or unfortunate, I don't know. But at least, I came to that thought finally.
Yeah, I think I can totally understand that. I know many people who, let's say, they have a business and then they put themselves into like adventure, let's say, right? So they either buy some property or maybe they invest heavily in another startup or they just scale like crazy and they just burn the bridges. They say, like, okay, I have to work now really hard to make this other thing work because otherwise it doesn't make any sense. And these people are crushing it. I'm not sure it's exactly like my style because I also would love to leave some space for like my personal life and my hobbies and my passions.
Right.
But it works for many people, and I think it's great, right? Because life is about seasons, and there are seasons for work, there are seasons for rest as well. And if you can accomplish something extraordinary, but you need to work really hard for that, let's say for the next year, then I think it's totally fair. Why not? Like you will rest after that. Like nothing horrible will happen if you miss a few like vacation days, or you will miss some, social interactions like for 1 year. Not entirely, but some of them, because you know like that the payoff will totally worth it. You will have like a huge exit after that.
Right. So connected with that, with the exit, the payoff, etc. Do you have like I would say a formula of a couple of let's call them attributes
Mm-hmm.
that you see as essential for um, getting closer to the success. And I'll
Mm-hmm.
give you an example from my side. I call them the 3 C's.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned them basically from my failed experience of the previous startup. It's commitment,
Mm-hmm.
consistency, and community. These are the three elements that I was basically missing the last time, which I have today, I think. And I mean, it's self-explanatory, right? Commitment, you got to be really passionate about it. Consistency is that you actually like consistently work on it and you don't just do it like this. And community for me was the biggest aspect because I just moved to France. I literally didn't have anybody to talk to
Mm-hmm.
about my idea. It was all in my head. And because of that, it just like crashed and burned because I just couldn't get out of my own head. There was like no support from the outside besides talking to my American friends who were like
Mm-hmm.
6 hours behind me. So, do you have a formula of your own, and what does that formula include?
To be honest, I'm still figuring this out. I would say I didn't hit the success which I'm targeting to. But also depends the definition of success. I think I live in a really successful life because I managed to build the life which makes me happy every day. And every day
Hmm.
I'm excited about my day. And actually, even when I go to sleep, I'm hyped about the next day. I'm hyped about the morning,
That's awesome,
then
man.
about going to work and thinking like what to do next. Like every single day, I'm really like excited about that. So I think this is success, right? But again, it's
It
something.
is.
It's like quality success, right? Not quantity. So I'm definitely agree with you about the commitment, right? It's really important. Persistence to be persistent. This is something which I think from all the qualities I have, like this one is one of the strongest, like persistency. I have this tendency to be like a bit hot-headed with ideas and I'm getting like passionate about the idea or about some project and then after some point I get like really bored about that and then I say, okay, maybe it's not for me. And I think it's totally fine. You experiment, you learn some things, you You also might learn that you were wrong before. So, but persistency, it's something which helped me to go through all of these difficult years, right? When you have to go for like a lot of heavy work, just like executing it, like really doing the stuff which needs to be done. So I think it's really important because not all the tasks and not all the, let's say, you have, not all the activities you do as an entrepreneur are exciting, right? Some of them are fun, but most
Right.
of them are just needs to be done. Also difficult things, hard conversations, boring, time-consuming tasks. So, and another thing which I would also add is volume. I think people are giving up very fast, and I'm trying to be mindful about that when I'm feeling down or when I'm feeling like, okay, I'm close at the moment to give up. It's about volume. Like you multiply volume with persistence, and this, I think, when greatness is almost guaranteed. What I mean by volume is that you think, okay, I sent, let's say, 100 emails and nobody replied to me, right? Send 1,000 or maybe 10,000 and you see that the result will be different. Or I was going to a gym for 1 month and don't feel any results, right? Okay, just multiply it by 10 and let's talk in 1 year. So I think this really beats. It's not like I'm not inventing this, right? Probably we all heard this from other people,
Right.
like from leaders, that really when you are able to be disciplined about like really doing the same task all the time, it's from Atomic Habits, right? If you are 1% better every day, you are like a lot better in 1 year, right? Comparing to zero. And I really believe in this principle. Of course, there is more than that. There is also a lot of luck. There is a lot of random things which happen because we live in a random world, right? The universe is pretty random, unpredictable. So there is a lot of luck, a lot of, things coming together. But for sure, being disciplined and also thinking like adding the volume. And another thing which I think I'm struggling the most, I would like to add it to this formula, but I'm not there yet, is to be focused. This is something which we all struggle right now. I think the attention span now is the like all-time low. And for entrepreneurs, it's extremely important just to be focused, be able to set realistic goals. It's important to dream big for sure, but you also need to be realistic, especially when you have a team you're responsible for. And then you're able to spend some time without distractions to get closer to that, to do the work which needs to be done. Instead of like jumping from tab to tab, from screen to screen, from call to call. So this is something which I personally struggle a lot with. And sometimes I feel like I work the whole day, but nothing was done, right? And
Yeah.
the only measure of the work for me, like how useful I was this day, is what I actually delivered. And when I was working as like a continuous process, but nothing was delivered, I mean, what's the point? Not always, sometimes, you need to take my words with a pinch of salt. I'm speaking a bit extreme because some things, they also you need to be creative and you think like for a few months until you come up with a masterpiece, of course. But let's be honest, most of the tasks you have as an entrepreneur or a founder are really like execution based. Okay, I have a task, I need to do it. So, and for that you need to be focused. So I would say this will be the formula as I see it right now. Nothing fancy, nothing surprising probably for anyone, but this simple as it is.
Yeah, I think there is like no hidden truth in here, right? It's not like tomorrow you're gonna say something like, I don't know, I need a magic wand to make
Right.
this happen. But if I could put like a quick marketing spin on that, because you started with persistence and then you said volume, in my head I was like, oh, patience, so like
Yeah.
PP, and I was like waiting for the third P, but I guess in your case it's like PPF, right?
Yeah.
Persistence, patience, focus. Yeah, focus. Definitely, this is my biggest struggle. Has always been. Well, actually, no, not always, but like recently, yes, this is like a killer for me. If I get distracted, this is it. You know how I stay focused? This is silly, but like I literally have it in front of me. I started just writing things on paper. Writing things on paper because all of the digital tools have failed me because I spend more time trying to perfect my Asana or Trello
Yeah.
board than actually doing things. And when I just put them down on paper and then I have this like satisfaction of, scratching it off,
Yeah.
it just truly, truly works. It's such a basic thing.
I think like my definition of success will be then I can have a coffee on my assistant, or let's say somebody who works for me, like brings me prints out of my emails, and I can just like, draw, say like, okay, this is the answer for this is the answer for this, like not touching this computer like at all anymore. And I know some people do this, like some people, like high executives, they really only have like this pen and paper still to like keep saying when you have
Right.
so much information. I've been using the apps which are blocking like other apps on my phone. It helps. So there's the app I've been using for I think 6 or 8 months. It's called Opal.
How do you spell that?
OPAL. It's a paid app. Actually, it's not cheap, but I think it's totally worth the investment. And it blocks your apps like for real. You cannot, like Apple screen time, if you have iPhone, right, you can always say like, okay, ignore the limit, ignore the limit. With Opal, you can't ignore the limit. Like your app is blocked. There is nothing you can do about it. If you restart your phone, the app is still blocked. So for me, it
Oh,
was a
wow.
game changer. Yeah. So I'm
Okay.
really happy about it because why I say this because I used to block it for weekdays, let's say for working time and for in the night from 9 p.m. until 10 a.m. and while I'm working. But I didn't follow these rules for weekends. And then I noticed that like my consumption of like social media and generally the time I spent on the phone on weekends was crazy. But weekdays, no, because everything was blocked. So now I have the same for every single day. It's blocked in the night, blocked during the day. And if I want to unlock it, I have to like say, okay, unlock, and then I have to wait 2 minutes. I'm just sitting like this, waiting for it to like unlock. Most of the time I say like, okay, not worth it. I'll go back to work. Because I still have this
Okay.
like fidgeting habit, like I just want to like do
Right.
something. I want to have it in my
Mhm.
hand. But if I have to wait for 2 minutes just for like 5 minutes on Instagram, I'm like, maybe it's not worth it. I will wait until it's unlocked. Like I have 1 hour a day where I can use it. And for me, it was really helpful.
I have to try that,
You
to be
should.
honest, because I do this. So what you just described, the fidgeting thing, I do it very often. Even sometimes, like when I get, I don't know, bored on some Google Meets, right? Just like automatically I go to my phone, and that means that this is it. This is the end. I zone out of the whole meeting, and
Yeah.
that's a problem. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks. I'll look into that.
I think they have a free
Um,
trial, so you can just try it out and see if it works for you.
okay. Okay. Thank you. So, what I want us to talk about next is again. So we just talked about the good, right? So like brought up some good stuff, but I'm like, let's switch back to the bad and the ugly. Um, is
Let's do
there
it.
is there anything like one thing or maybe a couple of things that you wholeheartedly regret that has happened on your entrepreneurial journey, whether it's what you did or whether it's how you reacted to certain
Mhm.
situations, circumstances, something like that?
To be honest, nothing comes to mind. Like, I definitely did some wrong decisions. I don't want to call them mistakes because I'm not this kind of person who says like, "Oh, it's not mistakes. I learned something." No, like mistake is a mistake, and you like when you fuck up, there are consequences for that, right? So I'm just accepting them. So mistakes were made for sure, wrong decisions were made for sure. I don't think I regret about it. And another like I posted on LinkedIn recently like some very like mainstream praise like nobody regrets about being an entrepreneur and like leaving the job and everything. And I truly believe it's true because truly believe it's true. I really believe it's true because yes, things can go sideways and things can go not the way expected, but there's nothing to regret about. Like every day you have to learn so much and you need to become a better version of yourself. And every day you kind of get out of the comfort zone and you're doing things that 99% of people aren't even capable to do this. But even if they're capable, probably they won't do this because they're scared or they're insecure about that. Just thinking from this perspective, from this angle, makes it like difficult to regret about something. What exactly you're regretting? So, and again, I don't want to sound like I'm an enlightened person or whatever, like I have no regrets. It's just because I don't see them like this, right? It's also very important to be able to forgive yourself if you did something wrong. And if you exercise this ability, I also think regrets will not be that present, right?
I think that's a very interesting spin on it because it definitely takes a certain amount of self awareness to look at it from that perspective.
Olya, can I
Maybe I
just
have
add
to
to my...
like rephrase that question for moving forward.
Yeah, I want to add one point here. Actually, I have one. That it's not only about my business journey, but in general, like in life. Like the only regret I have, which is again, it's not a regret because as we discussed before, I feel like we cannot take an action before we really reach the
Right.
point. The only regret I have, like I have not done things earlier. So the most difficult thing for me was to start, and the only regret I have not started it before. And I was even aware about this because I've heard it from other people. Like other people say, not necessarily about business, but like any way that you pursue, which you feel you belong there. It can be sports or spiritual growth or personal growth or business. It doesn't matter. Any kind of growth where you feel like, okay, this is my authentic way. Because many of us, we feel it, like sometimes we feel we are not in the right place. We don't belong here. I don't know where I belong, but I don't belong here. So this is, and we know like, okay, I should have done it way, way, way earlier. So this is the, I can call it regret. Like I should have done it earlier, but again, if it happened when it happened, probably it's supposed to be like that. Maybe if I started working on the scale which I work right now 5 years ago, I would like mess things up and then I have like proper regrets, right? So again, we all have a unique journey and we all learn on this journey. I think focusing on regrets is very toxic, so we shouldn't do this.
That's a very nice lesson overall because I mean, that's maybe not the way I intended the question to be. It was rather like, okay, what is something that you wish you did differently, whatever. So you see, it's like the angle, right? So for me, what you just said is like not starting early, not doing something earlier. I think that's how I see things that I used to regret now as well. It's basically, for me, the one big thing is, I guess I call it not speaking up. So, and the reason why I say it is because I've learned through like many, many years of finally actually doing it, is that actually this is one of my like biggest skills. I am like a facilitator, I'm a connector, because I can see both sides and I try to like put them all together as in like interpersonal relation between teams or between like members of the same team. This has always been my biggest strength, but at the beginning of my career, even in the middle of it, I was so afraid of saying anything, obviously from the standpoint of just sounding stupid and, people not wanting to listen to me. And there is obviously the second element to this whole not speaking up or not being vocal. And this might be a sensitive topic, but both of us have said that we were born in Russia. Obviously, when the conflict hit, I think it was very hard for everybody. And for me, I'm not going to like go into the whole thing at all. But what I thoroughly regret is when I was seeing a lot of messages on LinkedIn from people saying, oh, let's like boycott and block Russian businesses, that I have not said anything. Obviously, that was purely from the fear of being like personally canceled. But I wish I did it because that would have cemented my position as somebody who would not take anything that's unfair. And I thoroughly regret that. I'll use this word. I regret it.
Do you think you could make a difference? Or you would make a difference for yourself?
Not on a large scale, but I think on the scale of my network and my personal connections, I think that would have made some difference. So that's why, and this is an excellent question, by the way, because it's like when people bring up things like this, you're like, yeah, but do you think it would actually change something? Yeah, it would have changed things in my immediate network, and maybe my immediate network could have changed the thinking of their network. So could have had a network effect, right? But I didn't start it. I was silent, and even in my like in the conversation with my friends, I would just retrieve from the whole subject because I was just so paranoid of being labeled as pro-Putin if I said anything remotely positive about Russia. That was my biggest fear, and that's why I like stayed away from talking about the subject overall.
Right, I can totally understand this because I've spent almost 10 years of my life in Germany, and it's the country which is still finding its way into accepting their nationality, right? So it took them more than 70 years to finally start accepting themselves. And still, like, if you go to Germany, like probably in France, you have like French flags everywhere. People are using like French symbolics and everything. And in Germany, it's still not the case. Like, it will be considered strange. Not like it will attract some attention if you put like a German flag on your balcony, right? Even though there's what's
Wow, I
bad
didn't
about
know
this?
that.
I mean, there's nothing wrong about that, but
Right.
it will look a bit strange, because still like any expression of the national pride is still very sensitive topic. Only on football games, like this is where everyone is like, go crazy with jerseys and, merch and everything. But I've been observing this for many, many years. And then I was really like, yeah, unexpectedly, I end up in the similar situation with my own country, my own identity, right? And I was always saying that, like, okay, like in Russian language, being Russian as a person, like a nationality, and being Russian citizen is two different words. But in English, it's the same word. Like Russian is Russian as a citizen, that you belong to the
Right.
country, or that you belong to culture and language and everything. And I always say that, like, okay, I want to breathe and live the heritage which I have as a Russian person, but I want to stay away from what I believe is a Russian state. But on the other hand, I think it was also like a very convenient point to say these two things come together, right? So you need to kind of you cannot separate them as easy as I try to do it for myself. So yeah, I know exactly what you mean, and I also see that it's not a good practice for in Germany, and I also don't see it as a good practice for myself, right? And maybe first I was emotional about that, and I was kind of finding my way, like, should I kind of cancel my own heritage, and should I cancel my own
Right.
origins? But now I said, like, if people don't like it, it's okay. I will be who I am because this is where I'm from. I'm not putting like Russian flags and everything, but I never did this. Like, it's not like I'm not wearing like Russian jerseys or whatever. But if I want to do it, I will do this, and I don't care what other people think, right? Because I'm not I don't want to give up the place where I'm coming from. So that's one thing. The second thing, when you say about like LinkedIn post, from my observation, LinkedIn was like the most radical social network. Like, I was really surprised, but like amount of negativity
Yeah,
on
me
LinkedIn
too. Hmm.
was way higher than like Instagram or TikTok or
Hmm.
even like Telegram, where it's like there is no censorship in Telegram. LinkedIn went wild, like wild. And I was like, oh my God. But actually, if you really look into what people are posting from any, like, no matter what they're coming from, most of the aggression and negativity and most of the message which they have was due to lack of information. Like, I wouldn't call it ignorance, because I don't want to offend these people. But if a person who thinks that like banning Russian business will have any influence, like this person has no idea about what they're talking about. They don't know how Russia works. They don't know how this system was designed, right? And again, I don't want to offend anyone, but when people tell me like, why people are not going to protest in Russia and everything, I say because everyone will go to jail, like
You'll end
everyone.
up in jail.
It's like, no, they cannot put to jail like 140 million people. No, trust me, they can. This is
Yeah, they
exactly
can.
this is exactly how you build the system, which is not like it's unshakable, right? So it doesn't matter if you go on protest or not. And so when I see these people are very like hothead and they're really like emotional about these ideas, I'm looking at this from the point of view like they just don't understand how it really works, but they are free to express their ideas for sure. Like I didn't feel like I want to be a part of these conversations because it's the same as I start to teach a French person how they should live, right? I have no idea, right? I don't speak the language. I don't know how the politics work. Like, why would I even tell these people, right? And yeah, it's a very difficult, very tragic situation, right? But we are there. We're living through this time, and we need to learn how to learn how. Sorry, we need to learn how to be in this situation, how to be there long term, I guess.
That is true. Actually, this sparked me to think about. So you talking, about identity, what you identify with in terms of nationality and all that. What about from like professional standpoint? Again, I'll share my thing first, so that you don't feel too much on the spot. So, for a long time, I knew that I wanted to do marketing, quote unquote, right? But that was the extent of it. And so recently, in the past maybe like couple of years, I still couldn't understand what is specifically that I wanted to do. Like, who is Olya? Like, what is she good at? Like, what is she trying to be? And I'm still figuring it out, right? Do you have any thoughts on that, and maybe like a concrete advice that you could give to the audience?
Sure. Actually, I have two conflicting ideas on that. The first one is that we all know that like the more niche you are, like the more the narrow the niche that you are targeting is, the more success you have to conquer this niche. And I think this is a good strategy to starting out, right? So this is where how all the great companies and great minds actually came to success. So I think it's helpful to leverage the skills which you have. And let's say if you are good in marketing, maybe becoming a real estate expert tomorrow is not the best idea, even if it sounds like a great idea, right? So maybe leveraging what you already have. You don't have to be excited about that. Let's say I've been working as a product manager for many years and I've been doing like really big projects. And then I opened my e-commerce brand. So now in retrospective, I think it wasn't the smartest thing to do if your goal is to earn money, right? Because why would you start something you have no idea about if you have like many years of experience in something else?
Right.
And now I have like a product agency, which is I think is growing amazing, and I'm really happy there. So, but on the other
I'm
hand,
happy to be working
I
with you
don't.
guys. I can give you
Yeah,
a
we are happy
testimonial
to
right
work
on
with you
the spot.
too. So, but then on the other hand, I don't want to be attached to this as well, right? Because I think life is just more fun than that. Um, I think the essence of entrepreneurial journey is to try new things and be also willing to give something up. And I have like a story to show, how to say, as an example from Tim Ferriss, you know, the author of 4 Hour Workweek and many other things.
Right.
And he's a really, really big influence for me as well. And he shared a story once that his first book, 4 Hour Workweek, was such a huge success that people will start to call him like he's the 4 Hour Workweek guy. And he was invited to TV shows and podcasts, and he was everywhere associated with this book. And he said like, okay, there was a point in his life when he thought, okay, either I go this way and become like 4 Hour Workweek guy forever, or I need to like stay away from my biggest, let's say, masterpiece, like my biggest success, to keep who I am, right? And now, like when you think about Tim Ferriss, like who is he? He's like a book author or podcaster or investor, or he's doing these like weird experiments all the time. He's putting himself into these crazy situations. He's just Tim Ferriss, right? And I think it's the same
Right.
about like The Rock. You know, I don't even remember his name, like the actor, like the huge guy. Everyone knows him. He's The Rock, like Dwayne Johnson, Dwayne The
Johnson,
Rock
yeah,
Johnson.
yeah.
Yeah. He's The Rock. He's an actor, but then he has a tequila brand, and then he's like, he's The Rock. That's it. This is who he is. And so why I'm telling this, because we live in a world which is changing all the time. Sometimes we have to learn new skills, and we need to give up the skills which maybe have no demand anymore. By being yourself, nobody can get it from you, right? It's the same as like Joe Rogan, let's say, a podcaster, because we're making a podcast. If tomorrow Joe Rogan, like, I know, for some reason he has to give up his podcast, which he was doing for like, I know, many, many years. In 1 year, he will get back to this point because he is who he is. He's Joe Rogan. Like, he's not a Joe Rogan, the podcaster, or Joe Rogan, the UFC fighter or commentator, what he was doing, or comedian. He's just, so I think this will be like the next evolution for me. So now I'm really focused on one business. I want to make it great. I want to scale it. I'm on the mission right now, so I don't want to like really dilute my focus. But my idea for the future is to really be like be a character of my own movie, right? And people know me as Gleb, right? Like a person who is doing so many things, but like what exactly he's doing? He's just being himself, living an epic life, like launching businesses, doing this kind of cool stuff, jumping from the roof and this stuff. So I want to be this kind of person, not really attaching myself to one thing.
Yeah, but that is the stepping stone, though, right? That's
For
what
sure,
I
for sure.
understand from you
I
saying. So
think
you gotta
it's better to
establish
like
some label first, and then you
for
can be
100%. You niche down to what you have unfair advantage, like something which you already know how to do, like something you can do tomorrow. Like you don't have to learn any new skills, no new technology, just do like everything you already know before. And then eventually you evolve, if you want, to something which like you detach from this project. So it doesn't define you, but you define what you want to do next. For me, it was very, very, not painful, but it was kind of difficult to detach from my corporate labels, right? I was
Right.
senior product manager or whatever, and then I had to do like setting up the email funnel. And I'm thinking like, I was a head of product in a legit company, and now I'm doing the, some super basic stuff like, I'm better than this. But I think like, okay, who cares what my label was, right? It doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
Like, this is the real world, and you need to like roll your sleeves and do the thing, because nobody else will do it for you.
I can totally relate to that. I think this is the thing that has gotten to me in the past, as in like, okay, in order to actually grow into into different direction, you gotta do the dirty work, quote unquote, right? All right, I think we've touched upon a lot of different deep things, useful things, etc. So what I want to establish as a tradition on this podcast is giving a bit of a homework to the listeners, because this is a concept that I'm deeply employing in Aurora, which is like, you gotta practice before you can actually, like, you gotta practice in a controlled environment before you can actually deploy those skills in real life. So I have two ideas on what to give to them based on everything that you've covered, and you let me know if you agree. So I think an excellent piece of advice was when you said that in order for you to overcome the self-doubts, imposter syndrome and all that, you just gotta like literally sit down and write about what is it that you've done where people actually gave you negative feedback, because maybe that's just in your head.
Right.
And the things that actually happened, right? So I think that's an excellent exercise. And then the second one is exactly what you just said. Like, understand your label and then use it as a stepping stone for you to actually be yourself. So this would be the two pieces of homework that I would give. Is there anything, like, would you like to change that or maybe add something else?
I can just add to the first one, and this is something which I'm actually doing, because I know if listeners or viewers will have this impression, but I have like a major problem with like accepting myself and accepting my achievements or whatever. So like, if 1,000 people come to me and say like, you've done a great job, I'll say like, okay, thank you, it's okay. Like, I won't really take it seriously. So what I'm doing, I didn't invent this. Like, one of my mentors recommended me this exercise. Every time I receive any positive feedback, I make a screenshot, and then I save it somewhere so I can reread it later. Every time I get a good review or just a compliment, or sometimes it also happens that some, let's say, distant friends, they text me and say like, man, you inspire me. Like, I'm not inventing this, and I'm not accepting this also, but it happens that people say like, you inspire me. And I say, yeah, cool, like, I'm happy to be your friend, this kind of stuff. So I save it, so then I can later read it again in the moments when I feel like I'm not doing good enough, I'm not good enough, or whatever. I can read it again, and it will cheer me up. So this could be also like addition to your homework. If you ever receive a positive feedback, but like sincerely positive, and maybe the feedback which matters, because if somebody comes and tells me like, hey, you are nice t-shirt, right? Okay, it doesn't matter, like, because it's not me, like, I didn't work for this. I didn't work for that, right? But if somebody's like, you did a great job, or maybe like this, you said like, your LinkedIn post was great. It's like, okay, because I really I put my effort there, and I wanted I want people to like it, right? So take a screenshot, make a note, and then it will cheer you up when things go sideways.
That's another really good piece of advice. So like your little motivational collection, right? That you can go back to.
Cheerleader team.
So to basically like reframe it, anything that you've put effort into, and then people complimented you on it, or like told you that this was well done, you should save it for later, for whenever you feel down.
It's a good exercise.
Okay. All right, great. I'll actually do it myself.
Yeah. And for the second thing which you said, like, yes, for people who are just starting out or they're thinking to start out, I really think that it will save you a lot of time and money if you really leverage the skills which you already have. And if we talk about technology, like startups and everything, like really try to do the things which you understand that you don't need to learn, that you can do it like literally tomorrow, or find resources to do it tomorrow. This will save you a lot of time. Like, again, following your passion is amazing, it's great. But if it's your first business, it's also fine if it's just money business. It's totally okay. There is nothing wrong about earning good money, covering your basics, right? And then dedicate your resources, creativity to something bigger than you. If you feel like you've been stuck looking for your passion for like more than 6 months, stop looking for this, go and try to sell something. You will learn more about business than thinking and like sitting in the chair, think like, what's my passion?
That's true. Yeah, I agree with that. All right. I think that's been super insightful, super exciting for me as for the first, for the pilot episode
For
of
me too.
this new venture. Everybody, please go check out Codebusters. They build great products. They're building my product. I'm being totally objective because I've built other products in the past, so I know how to differentiate good and bad products. So go check them out. If you have an idea in mind that you would like to turn to reality, I highly recommend you talk to them. They actually have a standalone product that's, I think, called some type of a workshop, right? Where they can just like help you work through what's in your mind to just like get focused and get some concrete things out of that. I've done it with them a couple of months ago, helped me immensely to finally, come to a more concrete idea out of like a very large concept that I had. Thank you so much, Gleb, for this podcast and for the work that we're doing together. And I was really happy to have you.
Thank you so much for the shout out. Thank you for inviting me. It was great, and I'm really happy to be a part of your podcast, work with you, and also share your mission to help entrepreneurs to spread the word, and hopefully together we will influence more people to live the life that they want. There's nothing more rewarding than that, right?
Exactly.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.